AI is going to take a blowtorch to everything.
미네르바 학교가 가지고 있는 모델 중에 뭔가 가장 눈에 띄는 부분이 있다면 당연히 세계 각지를 돌아다니면서 공부한다 일 텐데,
저희는 이제 샌프란시스코에 지난 1년간 있었는데, 그러면 거기서 저희가 해야 되는 건 학생으로서 이 현재 지역에 있는 문제점 중에 하나를 골라서 직접 경험을 해보고 인터뷰도 해보면서
AI가 쉽게 길러내지 못하는 능력이잖아요. 사람만이 가질 수 있는 그거를 어떻게 내 나라의 이 세상에 어떻게 적용시킬 수 있을까?
So I would say our purpose is to support and develop aspiring global leaders who care about a safe and sustainable future.
들을수록 똑똑해지는 지식뉴스!
You probably recall, over the course of the last 10 years, 15 years, almost everybody who sits on a stage like this would tell you it is vital that your children learn computer science. Everybody should learn how to program. And in fact, it's almost exactly the opposite.
I can remember a time 5 years ago or so where many people were telling me that universities needed to change their entire curriculum and we should just be teaching everyone to code. And now we're living in a world where AI is going to do most of our coding for us and those jobs will not exist. Where I see AI being of enormous value, whether it's in fields like transportation, energy, sustainability, public health, many other fields, is in its ability to exponentially increase human capacity. You can imagine working on an important challenge in your job and having essentially 10 or 20 AI, what will we call them in the future? Personas, AI assistants, able to do very complex and meaningful work for you that you are guiding because you understand what you're trying to accomplish on the other side of that equation. And I mention that because I think it's a very good example of the moral hazard involved in trying to predict the future and to do very specific, practical job training. My name is Mike McGee. I'm the president of Minerva University, and I've come to Seoul to talk about innovation in global higher education. The truth is, I don't know what the jobs of the future will be in 20 years. It's impossible to predict. But we actually know a lot about the kind of skills that human beings have always used to adapt to a complex, changing world. And they really are things like critical thinking and creativity and complex problem solving and understanding complex systems. So I think if we refocus our attention on building those types of skills and competencies, if we give students many more opportunities to work together and to work with faculty on complex, interesting, meaningful projects, then I think I'm very optimistic about the ability of our students to have agency over their own future, even in circumstances where Microsoft is laying off 6,000 workers. By the way, I would predict that sometime in the near future, Microsoft will need 6,000 more people. They just don't know what for yet. And so this is a part of any dynamic economy. When technology disrupts, people do get laid off. Soon enough, the technology will also tell you where you need talent, and rehiring will begin.
새로운 미래가 열리고 있습니다. 이제 인공지능을 중심으로 한 그야말로 기술의 시대, 과학의 시대가 새롭게 열리고 있습니다.
전 세계적으로 학생들이 요즘 과제나 학습 자체에 AI를 활용하면서 좀 주체적인 사고나 학습을 회피한다라는 말이 많이 나오는데요.
Yes, it's a very important question. But what I do know is that, so we're going to have to reimagine the way that we assess student work in order to avoid this kind of cat and mouse game of the university getting more sophisticated in how it catches people using AI and students getting more sophisticated about how they mask their use of AI. I think that's a very bad scenario. So we need to think about how to design learning challenges that might use AI, but also successfully measure student learning. So we do not want students to hide from AI. We want them to understand it as a technology in very deep ways, to be thinking about it as a tool for solving complex problems. But AI is going to take a blowtorch to everything that we do with assessment and evaluation. That's just a reality. And I don't think our posture as a university should be to be the police. I don't think it promotes good learning outcomes.
미네르바대는 AI시대 인재를 길러내기 위해서 어떻게 하고 계신지가 좀 궁금한데요.
미네르바 학교가 가지고 있는 모델 중에 뭔가 가장 눈에 띄는 부분이 있다면 당연히 세계 각지를 돌아다니면서 공부한다 일 텐데, 그 모델 가운데서 AI가 제공해주지 못하는 그럼 대체 자원이 없는 경험들이라고 저는 확실하게 얘기를 하고 있거든요. 저희가 만약 학문적인 배움만을 저희가 추구를 했을 때는 AI들이 다 대신 배워줄 수 있어요. 요즘은 시대가 너무 잘 발전하고 정말 기술력이 계속 늘어나기 때문에 AI를 통한 학습을 통해서 사람들이 점점 더 그 부족한 갭을 채워나갈 수 있는 환경이 있다라고 얘기를 했을 때, 지금 미네르바가 제공하는 교육이 경험적 사고와 경험적 배움이 너무 잘 구축이 돼 있다라는 거라고 말씀드릴 수 있을 것 같아요.
Well, yeah, I mean, civic projects to me similarly are about understanding what it means to be in a community where there are many different kinds of organizations contributing to that community. Beginning to understand what it's like to be a responsible and valuable worker within any organization. And then starting to build your own professional network, getting introduced to lots of companies and organizations and governments, and developing relationships with people who work in those organizations. For instance, we've had an AI lab in Tokyo for the last almost 6 years. It started as a partnership with SoftBank and DeepCore. It gave our students the opportunity to collaborate with employees at DeepCore on AI projects, along with our faculty. In the past year, that has grown to now include new projects related to AI-driven climate solutions. So if you have a passion for solving problems around sustainable energy and you're a Korean student, you might be collaborating with students from the US and Brazil and UAE on projects that sharpen and enrich your understanding of how to solve those types of complex problems.
더 추가를 해보자면 저희가 과목마다 location based assignment라고 이제 지역 특화 과제가 있어요. 그러면 저희는 이제 샌프란시스코에 지난 1년간 있었는데 이제 사회과학 수업에서 location based assignment가 나왔어요. 그러면 거기서 저희가 해야 되는 건 학생으로서 이 현재 지역에 있는 문제점 중에 하나를 골라서 저희가 이제 알아서 그 문제와 직접 이제 경험을 해보고 이제 거리에 있는 시민분들과도 인터뷰도 해보면서 실제로 이 현재 있는 내가 속해 있는 커뮤니티와 사회에 내가 어떻게 하면 변화를 갖고 올 수 있을지 과제를 통해서도 그렇게 배우고 있습니다.
To me, the uniqueness and value of location-based assignments is in the way that they act as a reminder that the complex problems that we talk about all the time ultimately are felt locally. They're felt in real places affecting real people. And when you do location-based assignments, you get to see that firsthand and appreciate it, I think, in a deep way. And you get to build the sort of muscles of what it feels like to contribute to a community. And I think that's also a very valuable part of the experience. I mean, one of the things that's become very clear, I think, over the last decade is that your success in the workplace is actually highly dependent on your own professional network, on the people that you have access to. So I think young people just need to be prepared to make a case for themselves as valuable workers within a changing economy, and then adapt to the needs of the companies and organizations that they're working for. And I think and I hope that we are training and developing students at Minerva University who can do that. One thing I'll say about our seminars and the active learning pedagogy is it makes the classroom a very dynamic learning space. When you design your classroom for active learning, you create a very virtuous cycle of accountability. I think relative to students at other universities, they feel a very strong level of accountability because, as we say, everyone is in the front row in a Minerva class, and everyone is expected to participate in discussions which are actually very deep and meaningful discussions. So students tend to come quite prepared, which also then contributes to their learning.
저희가 온라인의 포럼이라는 저희 학교만의 툴로 저희가 수업을 하는데요. 한 수업당 한 15명에서 20명 정도의 수업으로 진행을 하는데 100% 토론 형식으로 진행이 됩니다. 수업 전에 3시간 정도 그 수업 관련된 내용을 미리 읽고 와야 돼요. 그럼 수업 자체는 교수님이 그 내용에 대한 강의를 하시는 게 아니라 학생들이 서로 토론하고 그 내용에 대한 의견을 주고받고 이거를 어떻게 내 나라에 이 세상에 어떻게 적용시킬 수 있을까 하는 토론을 하는데 여기서 가장 중요하게 길러진 능력이 저는 공감 능력이라고 생각을 하거든요. 그리고 공감 능력은 저는 많은 전문가들이 얘기하듯이 AI가 쉽게 길러내지 못하는 능력이잖아요. 사람만이 가질 수 있는. 이 수업을 하다 보면 그저 데이터를 분석하거나 데이터를 기입하는 그런 AI가 나중에 더 잘할 수 있는 일이 아니라 사람과 사람 간의 커뮤니케이션 그리고 서로 의견에 대해 뭐 맞는 게 있으면 맞다 그거에 반대하는 게 있으면은 내 의견은 이렇다 이런 식으로 설명을 하듯이
미네르바는 1학년 때 모든 이제 학생들이 전공이 없는 상태로 들어와요. 그리고 2학년 때부터 전공 공부를 시작을 하는데 그 이유는 1학년 때 코너스톤이라는 커리큘럼이 가장 중요한 어떻게 보면 미네르바의 하이라이트거든요. 그래서 총 모두가 같은 4가지 수업을 듣는데 사회과학, 자연과학, 이제 수학과 통계 그리고 영어 이렇게 과목으로 나눠져는 있지만 결국엔 이 모든 4과목이 하나로 이어지는 느낌을 받거든요. 왜냐하면 이 4과목은 과목을 배우는 게 아니라 문제 해결 능력을 적용시키기 위한 이제 재료 같은 느낌이 전 들었어요. 그래서 Complex Systems라는 게 실제로 과목 이름인데 거기 안에서 문제 해결을 이제 시작을 할 때 어떤 절차를 밟을 것인지를 먼저 배우고 그걸 또 다시 수학과 통계 쪽으로 넘어가서 똑같은 프로세스를 적용해보기도 하면서 이게 결국에는 문제가 달라 보이지만 이제 중심에서는 같은 거고 그거를 해결하기 위해서는 밟아야 될 절차는 어떻게 보면 조금은 정해져 있고 그렇기 때문에 어느 환경에서나 적응할 수 있는 인재가 될 수 있는 교육을 받고 있지 않나 싶습니다.
So I would say our purpose is to support and develop aspiring global leaders who care about a safe and sustainable future. That's where I feel like our mission is focused. This is one of the reasons that I would like to build some of our new programs in Seoul. So as I look at current state of the world, which concerns me very much, its insights from its own history, it's the role that it plays in the global economy, make it a very, very important partner in any conflict resolution around the world. I think Korea has a critical role to play in any conversation about how we can make the world more safe and more sustainable. And one of the reasons that we chose Seoul to be a city where our students live and learn is because of its rich cultural and political and economic history and what can be learned from that history, because it is a economically and culturally vibrant city today, and there are lessons to learn from that.
일론 머스크 테슬라 CEO가 한국 인구의 3분의 2가 사라질 거다 이렇게 언급하는 것처럼 한국의 소멸설이 대두가 되고 있는 것 같은데요.
Well, yeah, I recognize that Korea has some very significant challenges around population decline, around making sure that as a nation you retain your top talent to work in industries like tech and health and in climate solutions and many other important areas of the economy. And my only insight would be that I see Korea as an extraordinarily resilient culture that in recent memory has overcome similarly enormous challenges. So I'm quite optimistic personally about Korea's future. I see Seoul and Korea more generally as a kind of shining example of how to arise out of the most difficult circumstances imaginable and rebuild your culture, your economy in a way that I find very inspiring. And I actually, at our graduation ceremony last year, brought Seoul up as an example of a city that within some people's recent memory actually rose from the ashes. So I think about Korea in the context of how we organize global higher education. Actually, I do think that in any circumstance like this where you have very complex and seemingly intractable problems, education is a key part of any solution. We have to be educating young people to equip them with the skills and competencies and mindsets to solve very complex problems that won't be solved in my lifetime. So this is how I think about my own responsibility as president of Minerva University, is to make sure that the young people that we're serving are equipped to solve problems that I will probably not solve, and that my generation won't solve. Many of the problems we're facing today took 100 years to create, and they might take 100 years to solve. The most important thing is that we have highly talented, adaptive young people who are good critical thinkers, who understand complex systems, and who are committed to working to solve the biggest challenges that we're facing until they're solved, that have that level of determination and commitment to a more safe and sustainable future. So I think that is the responsibility of great global institutions of higher education. And I'm glad that I don't have to solve these problems on my own. So whether that be in solving complex challenges like the challenge of population decline, thinking about the role that immigration policy or trade partnerships or other approaches can take to improving the lives of Koreans, or whether it's about helping Seoul and helping Korea to build an exceptional entrepreneurial ecosystem so that social entrepreneurs and others can creatively work together to solve Korea's biggest challenges. I think universities have a very important role to play whenever there are big national changes on the horizon. And Minerva University would like to contribute to that. Actually, we are starting to see clusters of alumni in cities like Berlin and London, New York, San Francisco. And I do think from my observation would be that those cities tend to be quite welcoming to young entrepreneurs. They're also hubs of capital, so you can have access to and proximity to capital in those places. Similarly, in a city like São Paulo in Brazil. So I think that being very intentional as a city in welcoming young entrepreneurs and giving them opportunities to access capital so that they can resource their best ideas is very important. The other observation I would make is that in the United States, which of course is very well known for entrepreneurship, the most successful companies of the last 25 years, the vast majority of those companies were started by people who immigrated to the United States. So to be welcoming to people from all over the world who want to start companies in your city or your nation, to me is a very good idea. The best ideas come from all over the world. We don't know who the people are who might start the next 5 great Korean companies. So to be intentional about creating a great ecosystem for startups and welcoming talented young people from all over the world to contribute to that ecosystem, I think is a very smart idea. So I would say I think increasingly we are living in a world that requires highly sophisticated levels of global collaboration. And that means collaborating every day across multiple cultures, understanding how to use the diversity within teams to your advantage to become more innovative in your problem solving. I am lucky to have many students from Korea who attend Minerva University and many partners across Seoul who Minerva University has been partnering with for over a decade now. So we are very much hoping to identify the right partners in Korea to continue to build our program in Seoul, to make sure that our undergraduate students all get to spend at least a semester in Seoul and also have options to spend both fall and spring semesters here. In addition to that, we see Seoul as a potentially ideal place to build a program that we're calling Global Diplomacy for Sustainability. And this would be a program with learning for not only undergraduates, but graduate students in executive education, really a center where students who want to learn at Minerva University can collaborate on diplomatic solutions to some of the more complex challenges related to sustainability, including climate change, but also climate migration and related challenges that the world is going to be facing. So I'm very excited about that. For some of the reasons I just mentioned, I see Seoul as an ideal hub for a center like this. And if we are able to find partners to build that here, we'll have students from over 100 nations coming to Korea to collaborate on addressing some of these challenges. I don't think traditional higher education is prepared to help students to become the kind of adaptive workers in the 21st century economy that they're going to need to be in order to make sure that nations like Korea stay economically vibrant. I deeply believe that many of the solutions to our biggest challenges are already in the minds of young people around the world. And we need to give them the kind of spaces and the kind of resources they need to pursue those ideas.
Now it's the end of...
Today's Please Take Care of My Wisdom session ends here.
Yeah.
Okay. Today's Please Take Care of My Wisdom session ends here. 교양이를 부탁해 여기까지입니다. 감사합니다.